Good morning, and how's it going? Welcome to Antigua Barbuda today. We are joined by someone very fantastic who's going to give us some more insight on people's needs around disabilities and how then we can help make things a little bit more accessible for all of us. And that is Shavana Haythornthwaite. It's one of those great names that once you say it, you're like, oh, that was great. Haythornthwaite, there we go. And she is the Commonwealth Secretariat's Human Rights Unit representative. And they're going to give us a little bit more of an insight on persons living with disabilities. So that's the correct term, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
And your pronunciation was spot on.
Yes, nailed it.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So basically, if you can, I know it's a lot because it's just a lot to parse. So if you can give us like an overview of your particular role and then how you go about, I guess, assisting persons with disability, as well as if that includes invisible disabilities as well too.
Yes, huge question, but very happy to sort of kickstart that. So as you quite rightly said, I'm from the Commonwealth Secretariat, and I lead a phenomenal team, Human Rights Unit at the Commonwealth Secretariat, and we sort of work with our 56 member countries. We actually had 2 join very recently to essentially promote and protect human rights. Human rights can include a sort of a wide array of things. That could include sort of media freedom, which is quite apt being here this morning with you. It can include disability, or as you've said, the rights of persons with disabilities. And that's sort of why I'm here with my colleague, Justin, who sort of works with me at the Human Rights Unit. We're here this week to work with the government of Antigua and Barbuda to really look and understand the situation as it relates to persons with disabilities. It's a hugely complex issue, and often our governments within the Commonwealth do great work in this area, but not always enough. And often we find that persons with disabilities are sort of excluded from everyday life. So we're here this week to really essentially scope out what's going on here in Antigua and Barbuda at the request, I should add, of the government, because there's a real appetite from the government to do more here, to really do more, which is so promising and fantastic. And once we sort of learn a little bit more, once we understand what's happening here, we'll go away to rainy UK, by the way, to sort of put together a kind of a really comprehensive strategy around how we can work together over the next few years with the government on supporting the sort of protection of rights of persons with disabilities.
Okay, that's excellent. So then you touched on about human rights and how that means everything from your access to media and then also access to education, and all of that stuff is about human rights. Sure. So then would you be able to also give us maybe an overview on how we can make maybe our societies more inclusive and accessible for persons with disabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Another
big one.
Big question. And actually, you know, sometimes there are sort of low-hanging fruit, so it doesn't always have to be kind of a huge, comprehensive exercise. Sometimes it's just even about, you know, understanding and kind of educating yourself in everyday life about the fact that there are persons with disabilities that might not always be very obvious. So education is often at the heart of this. Often we find in countries, and I'm not just talking about Antigua and Barbuda, I'm talking across the Commonwealth, that one of the greatest sort of obstacles to the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities is in fact not fully understanding the sort of issue or understanding disability. And that can sort of cause and perpetuate stigma, discrimination. And if you have a really good educational framework in place that educates the public, but also quite sort of technical experts in government or private sector, and often even starting in the very early stages of childhood, where you sort of educate children from the word go, we can sort of really move towards really breaking those barriers and really, you know, making sure that stigma and discrimination is totally eradicated from the space. It's a long way to go. A lot of countries, you know, dare I say, my own country, also is working on this and totally doing more and needing to do more. But stigma and discrimination often is sort of the biggest barrier, and that's kind of one of the elements that we're looking to work towards to really empower also persons with disabilities, because a bilateral process too. We've got to do more to understand and protect, but it also means, in turn, making sure we're empowering persons with disabilities. So sort of education is one, accessibility, you mentioned that word, and actually that is a really, really important word. And often where the low-hanging fruit is, because actually things like, parking for persons with disabilities.
Elevators.
Ramps. Ramps, exactly. These are things actually that can quite easily be incorporated into the planning process of any building, work, the infrastructure process, planning permissions, even sort of labour agreements and policies and programmes of every sort of sector and ministry within government. And if you do it from the outset, it then sort of becomes ingrained, and it can be very easily then embedded. I think sometimes people think that there are lots of big things that we need to do, and there are. But like I say, there are sort of like quick fixes that you can already be doing. Sign language is another one. Braille is another one. I often go to buildings when I'm looking at sort of the issue of disability, and I just see there's no access, practically speaking, for persons with disabilities. And it's a shame because, like I say, there are very quick things that we can do. And then I suppose sort of part and parcel of our work is then to, as I said earlier, to sort of create a strategy where we will work with government, where we will work with also civil society organisations to provide technical assistance, capacity building support, to really help sort of build a kind of a really sustainable, and that's a key one, really sustainable, long-term sort of impact on this issue.
I think what is great that you mentioned was like the education, where even if you think you're not someone who is impacted by, being differently abled or anything like that, it's just really amazing to have that education and that awareness, because then that can lead to sustainability. Because I remember just even thinking about like memes that I've seen that really explain the difference between equality and equity, where it's like if you have a ramp, and yes, I apologize, this is going to be a Canadian example, where if you have a ramp and you have stairs covered in snow and the person is clearing the stairs and people are waiting to get up, there's someone in the wheelchair, and the person in the wheelchair is saying that if you clear the ramp, then we all can go up. So the stairs are important, yes, but actually we can all use the ramp, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So things like that, where it just clicked in for my head, where we were at work, and you're in like a 7-floor building, and then there's a fire alarm, and then I'm looking at my coworker, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how do we help you, because you are, you're in a wheelchair? So then how do we make that accessible for you?
Yeah, and education absolutely is at the heart of it, because of the fact that sometimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, when you don't understand something, you're scared of something, the fear of the unknown, if you will. And actually sometimes, you can be in a situation where you're thinking to yourself, well, I might do more harm than good because I don't really know how to handle that situation. I don't really know whether, the sort of community or any person that you're encountering that has a potential disability that is visible, whether they would want your help, or whether, you're able to do it in the right way. And I think education can really get to the heart of it, because these are human beings.
Yes.
It's not like they're, an alien or creature from outer space. And I think that's what we need to really understand, that we're all human beings. And actually, I could probably say that I have my own little quirks that probably is also a disability, who knows?
Yep.
But you know what I mean? It's sort of, I think everyone deserves that equality, opportunity, inclusivity, and we all, whether we're officially regarded as having a disability, have to have some adjustment made, in our everyday lives. And I think that's really, really important to understand, that we need to, and it goes back to the education point, that really is at the heart of it. And far too often we unnecessarily exclude persons with disabilities, and it doesn't have to be that way at all. there are also, in Antigua and Barbuda, since I've been here, I've encountered some fantastic work going on. So I don't want to sort of give the impression that there's nothing going on here. Like, I'm not here because, you know, people don't care about it. Actually, I've spoken to so many people since I got here on Monday. Still a little bit jet lagged, I'm not going to lie.
I can imagine. I would be jet lagged. I'd be like, what day is it? I asked you, what day was it?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, our work started on World Mental Health Day, which was very serendipitous. Yeah, totally serendipitous. But since I've been here, I've spoken to so many fantastic and inspirational people. Really, the work that is going on, and I don't think they deserve the recognition always that, they don't always get the recognition, should I say. That came out totally not the right way. They don't receive the recognition that they deserve, actually, because we met a fantastic organization that is, the head of it actually is working tirelessly day and night on this. I've met lots of government officials who are also working tirelessly day and night. And sometimes it's a resource issue as well.
I was just going to say that. Like, I think it is because, like, my stepmother let me know about, like, the school for visually impaired people, for the blind, and, like, you know, sincerely, I think all people really just want that dignity and that ability to, you know, be a part of society, to, you know, engage in their community. And like you said so many times, unfortunately, we don't have the resources. So a lot of times people who really want to be a part of it are excluded. And I think that's what's really amazing about the work that you're doing, where we're just trying to find out ways that we can get everybody who sincerely wants to be a part of society involved. So is there something that, you know, people who are interested in maybe supporting you or hearing more about what you're doing, or like Googling, like what should we do to keep abreast of what it is that you're working on?
Yeah, so I mean, you'll be very pleased to hear that we are incorporating as much communication and sort of on our work as possible in order to really inform and engage with the public in the country who might want to know a little bit more about our work. We are here sort of actually until the end of the week, and we're continuing to talk to people. That includes government and non-governmental officials, but actually even persons with disabilities that want to talk to us. They're more than welcome to get in touch with the Ministry of Education. They could absolutely direct the sort of person sort of in question to us, and we'd be very happy to speak to them. We want to get as much data as possible this week in order to then be able to really carve out a phenomenally effective strategy that we would work on with government. And my last point, I know that time's running out, and I'm sorry for rambling on. I cannot take the credit. My team and I cannot take the credit for the work that we're doing here. This would not be possible without the dedicated, just as I said, using the word tirelessly working on this issue, officials, government officials at the Ministry of Education. I won't say their names because I don't know if they will appreciate me exposing them to sort of, you know, everyone in the country. But I have to say that the kind of Ministry of Education in particular, and one of the High Commissioners that's actually based in the UK, they facilitate this, and I could not be more grateful. I'm also grateful for you to invite me onto this show, so thank you so much.
Obviously, a huge honor and pleasure for all of us, because you're letting us know that, you know, maybe sometimes people may be thinking that, oh, what's going on? But there are, you know, things happening. And it's very cool to hear that we are now privy to, like, the reconnaissance mission of the, you know, Human Rights Secretariat. It's very nice to hear about, you know, things like this happening. And actually, this also really ties in well to what you're talking about. We do have more from the Wadadli Wellness Expo that's coming up after this.